Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock. I got this floor all installed. Really happy with it. Came together really well. Really digging the stone. Had a great day. So, this morning I learned that this curbless shower was supposed to have a 1-inch drop at the doorway, so like a recessed pan. I didn't know that. It was kind of a lack of communication between me and some others, and I was a little bit shocked to find out, but once I accepted it and embraced it, I decided I'm going to go ahead and tear it out and redo it an inch lower because the client really wants that. And I was worried because my heat cables run into that, which adds an element of difficulty. So not a big deal to tear out a pan and redo it. The tricky part with this one is my floor heat system enters the shower right here and then exits it again right there. So my plan is to carefully peel up my waterproofing membrane and then very carefully remove those cables out of the Dietrich heat, set them aside, tear out the pan, refloat it an inch lower, put more Dietrich heat on it, run those cables back into it. Confident that it will work. It's going to be tricky, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not a little bit excited to do it, just because I'm super curious to see how it's going to go and if I can in fact pull it off, which, you know, I like a challenge, so we'll make it happen. It's going to be tricky, tedious, take a few days, but it'll work. And I'm aware Schluter asks that you use a separate heat cable system in the shower as the floor. The reason for that is in case you ever had a damaged cable out here somewhere and had to replace the system, that you're not also having to tear out your whole shower pan and everything. That's really the only reason. There's not any other technical necessity for it. It doesn't affect the function whatsoever. And that is quoting my Schluter rep. So, but that wouldn't really matter either way for us because we've still got to tear that out and salvage those cables. So I was gonna wait till Monday to start on this, but I'm like too curious to see if I can peel these cables out of the Dietrich heat that's embedded in thin set. So I'm going to carefully slice my membrane and just at least peel the membrane up today and see how those cables come up. And I'm going to document this whole process just kind of for my own fun, and maybe someone can learn from it. You know, it sucks having to do this kind of stuff, but that's part of the business. You know, you don't do everything right every time. It was a detail that got overlooked, and it's more important to me. Let me rephrase that. It's less stressful to me to tear this out and redo it than it is to be mad about the fact that I have to do it. It's not worth my inner peace to be worried about it, or, you know, throw a fit about it. Whatever, it is what it is. I've accepted it, I'm embracing it, gonna make the best of it. And like I said, I'm a little bit excited to see how it goes. So anyway, this floor is pretty sick. I like it. Super flat, super tight, good looking stone. So first I'm carefully slicing right across here. Our recess is going to start back here, and I'm just slicing here to get started, and I'll get that dialed in on Monday. Peeling back the aqua defense, that's 2 thick coats, that's about 20 mils, probably a little bit more. And then, so that's just aqua D right there. And then I've got my FlowFX membrane under there that I'm going to slice through. Slice around the whole perimeter super carefully. I already looked at all my pictures to see where my wires are. The only place I have to worry about cutting my wires is right here, so I'm just going to go really careful in there. Slice the perimeter, peel the FlowFX membrane up, and then my hope is that I can pull those wires out of the thin set, and I think once I peel the Dietrich heat membrane up and it gets a little more pliable, those wires will just break out of the membrane without too much hassle. That's my hope. Wish me luck. And like I said, it's kind of fun tearing your own work apart to see, you know, what you could do better and what works and what doesn't.
This is strictly Aqua D over the flow effects membrane. You can see it's pretty hard to peel up, and it's taking all of that fleece with it. So if you've ever wondered if liquids bond to fabrics, they do quite well. And there is my flow effects membrane. See, you can see my 2 coats of Aqua D are actually a little thicker than that flow effects membrane, and quite a bit stiffer actually. It's a great membrane, it works fine. I'm just kind of showing you what it looks like. So that's just Aqua D with no fabric reinforcing, just straight 2 coats of Aqua D with a 3/4 inch nap roller. Pretty strong stuff, pretty strong bond. And that's the flow effects membrane. Installed it with Ultraflex Rapid Set Thin Set, which is a crazy strong thin set. So I know it's going to be kind of a bitch to get those cables out, but we can do it. It'll be fun. Embrace the suck. Enjoy the challenge and enjoy the educational experience. And in the grand scheme of things, on a job this size, a couple days is not a big deal, not a deal breaker. Doesn't mean I'm super thrilled about it, but I'm not upset about it anymore. I was a little butthurt right when I first found out, but maybe threw a little bit of a tantrum, but I got over it pretty quick. I'm having a good day, and I will continue to have good days every day because that's my choice. Alright, making some headway here. Kind of satisfying, not gonna lie. Now I'm gonna cut out a little corner of this and get a pry bar under it and peel that up. As I do, I think it'll break all this thin set apart, and then I can carefully pull those cables out. I think. That is not easy to pull up. I mean, it's not that hard, but. So I'm a big fan of taking lots of pictures of everything I do, and this is one of the reasons I was able to look at my pictures from earlier this week and see exactly where my cables are. My cables run like right here, right about there, so I'm cutting back away from the cables to pull out a couple of chunks of this just so I can get a pry bar under there and start peeling it up. And I did ask my shoulder rep before I attempted this, what are the possibilities of, say, we damage a cable if we can splice it? And he said, yes, absolutely. You can splice it, it won't affect the function. So knowing that, that gave me a little more confidence to tackle this rebuild. My goal is to not damage the cables, and I think I can do that. And that's really what I'm shooting for, is to not even have to do that, you know, not damage anything, but there is that as a backup. So here we go, pull up this T-treat. All right, so I've been able to pull out a little chunk of this and expose some cable. And once I start bending that membrane, that thin set pops right out and the cable comes out. This was really hard. If you've ever had to demo Detro or any uncoupling membrane, it's a pain in the ass if it's installed right. It's really hard to get up. And I'm tired. It's almost 5 o'clock on a Friday, and I don't want to do any more work today because I'm ready to go home and relax. But now that I've seen that it is possible to expose that, I have confidence that this is going to work. It's going to be hard and it's going to be tedious. I want to bring a loudmouth sensor and hook it up on Monday just to have it hooked up while I'm doing this, but just inches at a time. I'll slowly fill it up. Once this thin set pops out, it makes that wire free, and I think I'll be able to unstring it all, fold it out here while I rebuild a new shower pan. The deck mud's going to be a bitch to tear out, but I'm going to bring my son, who's going to help me with that. we'll tear that out, drop the drain, float a new pan with a little inch step up right there. And we'll put Dietrich heat back on it, string those cables back in here, re-waterproof it, and it's going to work great. So anyway, hopefully you guys all have a good weekend, and this will be continued on Monday. Not a bad place to be working though, honestly. All right, I lied. I'm not going home yet. I was tugging on this and realized that I can pull this cable right out of the Dietrich heat without having to curl the Dietrich heat up, or the membrane out. So that's awesome. So I'm just going to carefully unstring this whole cable, set it out there, get it out of our way, and then just demo this whole thing without worrying about having to take it out inch by inch. Hopefully. That's what I'm gonna do. So, not going home yet. Couldn't resist. You know how it is. It's just a close-up to show you how cool this is. All right, that was actually super easy. It all came up without issue. You can see our pattern in there. So now, right here where it meets the floor, this is where it becomes embedded in self-leveler. But our 1-inch drop is going to start about right here, fortunately. So I'm going to carefully chip out around these and pull them out just so I get them back here a little bit, get them completely out of the way, and then on Monday we can just really go ham on the demo on this deck mud and Dietrich heat without worrying about damaging those cables. So I'm super relieved that that worked out the way it did. Now it's just got to play surgeon and kind of piece it back together, which is kind of my thing. So we'll see you guys Monday. All right, it's Monday morning, getting ready to tackle this shower pan demo. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and look at my post from Friday. It explains what we're doing here. But essentially I had to remove these heat cables, and we're going to tear out this week-old shower pan and build a new one that's an inch lower because our client wants a 1-inch step down right here. So got my floor all protected. I'm marking a line 1 inch in, even though I think we're going to end up extending it out a little further. I'm going to cut this as far back as I can. Basically, I'm going to take a grinder and cut through my deck mud right across there, barely dodging my heat cables, just to give me a nice clean break. And that will also act as my step. It's already floated, it's already nice solid mud. Hopefully we can just reuse that. Once that's cut, I'm gonna start tearing this thing out. Wish me luck. Super relieved that these cables came out without issue. All right, I got that cut down almost 2 inches. I know my mud is 2.5 inches thick right there, but that cuts me down low enough that I'll have a nice clean edge here. I rechecked my cables with my meter. Everything's good, nothing's damaged, so those can stay out of the way, and I think we're good. Now I'm gonna bust that out, and that should give me a nice crisp step right there. We may end up building it further this way, I think, but for now, I can tear that out and float my new pan up to it and have a 1-inch drop right there. So now the hard stuff begins. My son Wes didn't come today. He had something else going on, so it's just me. Get to tear out my own mud bed, see how that feels. A little taste of my own medicine, I guess. Went ahead and cut with my grinder in some sections here just so I could pull out some chunks to get a good starting point. There's a little core sample. That is Dynacrete deck mud, Ultraflex rapid set, Dietrich heat membrane, more rapid set, and a little bit of fleece from the FlowFX membrane. So super solid. We floated this 9 days ago. I think we floated the pan a week ago last Friday. So it's not a full cure, but it is very hard. Excited to see how it goes. Cool little cross section for you. I want to get this drain up and out of the way, so I popped it loose out of the thin set, and then I cut it with the inside pipe cutter. Let's see what it looks like. See the thin set in there. It wasn't easy to pop. It took a little prying, so those little channels did their job and held it down there pretty good. But yeah, it's quite solid, but it's curious. It's interesting to see. I haven't had to pop one up before, so kind of fun to see that. I think that's a great design. One thing I really disliked about the Schluter drains is they don't have anything that really bonds to anything. It's just flat against flat mud, and I felt like I felt like they often sounded hollow. This one, I feel like if you do the thin set or really wet fat mud, it doesn't ever sound hollow, so cool. All right, so I'm finding that as I try to chip up my deck mud, this layer of teacher heat on top is really just holding it all together and making it so hard to demo. So it seems like the logical way is to pull up the membrane first and get rid of that, and then this deck mud will break up a little bit easier. But yeah, this 3/16 inch layer of plastic fleece and thin set really does add some strength to this floor, I believe. So that's a testament to that product, you know. I'm not a scientist, but it's obvious that it is very strong on there. So anyway, getting that up as best I can. I'm gonna start breaking up mud. Damn it, I wish I wouldn't have used those 1-inch staples. Up because it's so solid. If we can break it into a little bit of rubble, it's a lot easier to pry it out. Some good solid deck mud though. So this is kind of cool. So I'm just banging the shit out of this with my sledge to kind of bust it up, and then that fleece is bonded pretty good to that top layer of mud that I'm breaking up, so I'm able to kind of pull off big chunks like that. It's a good, strong system. Definitely gives me confidence that we're doing things right. Sucks. Don't get me wrong, this sucks. It's hard work. The whole situation sucks, but silver lining is I get to dissect my work and see what it's all about. Kind of cool, kind of fun. Don't mind it. Whatever, it is what it is. Just trying to make the best of it, learn from it. Have a good day. Making some headway here, so that will become my step down. That's where I cut with the grinder. You can see this is like 2 3/4 of an inch thick right there, super thick. And I put a plaster corner right there, stapled to this and stapled to that. So that is double reinforced with lath, and then I also spread thin set on that before I packed my deck mud. So this step here is actually super solid already, so I'm trying to leave that intact. I may try to leave my lath and poly down, and if I can just bust all the deck mud out of it really good, I'd love to not have to tear that out. We'll see. But let's see this pile of rubble here. The best way to do this, honestly, is just beat the shit out of it with the sledge until it crumbles. Scoop it up with the dustpan. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's really hard work, but it's cool to see how solid that is. Really strong. We'll pack that with thin set and deck mud on the new pan. Yeah, we're not salvaging the lath. That was wishful thinking. I kind of knew in the back of my head that wouldn't be the case. So when I pack this cement, this deck mud, we pack it so tight that it gets a little bit under the lath, and then in banging it up, it just turns to crumbs. It gets down under the lath like that. So I'm just gonna tear it all up, which is fine. It actually gives me something to pry on. I can get that pry bar under it and pull it up. These perimeters are really hard to bust out because I really pack those hard when I'm doing it. And then it was also being packed against day-old wall mud. So I have to think that those two bonded together somehow. So this isn't only bonded to the lath, but also somewhat bonded to that fat mud on the wall. So those are gonna be a bitch, but may even take like a flush cut blade to those if I need to, we'll see. But we can get headway. Pretty fun. That's kind of ironic. Son of a bitch. I don't know if I call that karma or what, but my first time ever retrieving one of my own cards. I put one of these in every shower I built, by the way. This isn't the first time. First time I've had to retrieve one. Yeah. A little taste of my medicine. Every time I build a shower, I think to myself that I hope whoever has to tear it out someday takes my name in vain. And definitely doing a little bit of that today. This is a bomber install, and I'm not just tooting our own horn here. This is well done and hard to demo, and I'm gonna keep building them this way. So yeah, this guy. All right, well that's done. That was a lot of work. It's about 1:15. That gives me plenty of time to pack a new pan. So now it's just business as usual. Got to clear down to the subfloor and see how thick it was over here. Almost 3 inches, about 2 3/4 inches, which is good because it gives me plenty of room to drop it down an inch. So if I go down to an inch here, that puts me at 3/4 at the drain, which is great, which means I can still use deck mud. If I start going thinner than that, then I probably need to use like 330 fast or something, and I don't want to do that. So going to set another foam donut at 5/8 of an inch, set my corner blocks, float off it, and then tomorrow set the drain, teacher heat, run the cables back in, which are still intact, cover it with membrane, flash it in, and then we'll be back to where we started. So I'm glad that part's done. I just set my pitch blocks. I know this says 7/8, but I ripped it down on the wood floor guy's table saw to 3/4. That's gonna give me 3/4 of mud at the drain. That's the minimum mud we wanna do. And then I've set this to give me 7/8 of an inch slope, because this is about 3 foot 2 inches at furthest point. Put that over here. At that point, it gives us about an inch drop from the top of that cement. So that gives us a 1 inch step. When all said and done, everything's tiled, we'll have an inch drop right there, and 3/4 of an inch, and there you have it. Gonna set the blocks, put down poly and lath, and mix up some mud, get this thing done and go home. A lot of work for an inch, but they want what they want, and we are in the customer service business. So I'm just doing some removable pitch blocks. I don't want to mess with 330 fast mud right now. This is how I did it last week when I packed this pan too. So just using some curdy board scraps, adding a spacer as needed. Screwing that in there, and then that hits me at my mark. All 4 of those, and then as I'm packing the pan, after I get my rails done and filled in, I'll just pull those out and fill them with mud. And it was very hard to demo, so I know it worked good. So, trying something new. All right, put down lath, mix up some mud, get rolling. All right, I'm all set up to mix. This is my setup. I think I'm gonna need about 6 bags. We used 9 before, and we're an inch lower, so maybe 5, maybe 6. And after we do this and get it waterproof, we're gonna start on a 1,000-foot slate floor. That's what all the permat's for, and ultralight and everything. So anyway, if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. So I've got this set for 3 bags of mud or 1 bag of mud. I think I'm gonna mix 2 batches of 3, but if I need to mix individuals, I got 2 different settings. Gives you the exact same water every time. Really worthwhile tool. I use it for mud, self-leveler, thin set if we're mixing bag after bag of the same stuff. Totally worthwhile purchase. I love it. And the view is not bad either. Here we go. ultralight to bond my new mud to my old mud there on that step. Just make that super, super tight and solid. Also spread some around this foam donut so it bonds to that. And normally I would spread it on these blocks too, but I'm gonna pull those out and fill them with mud. Got 3 bags of deck mud here. There's our 9 bags that we tore out, well that I tore out, I was alone. And dump this in, pack this thing and go home. It's a hard day, but you know what? I learned some stuff. Can't complain. All right, just finishing this up. Took a little under 6 bags, but there is our 1-inch drop down. And I just learned from the GC that we're gonna split it right in the middle. So tomorrow, I'm gonna extend it out about 2 inches with some 330 fast, and that'll just give it a nice, solid, super hard edge. I don't really like outside corners with deck mud. They tend to crumble when you're working over them, but that 330 will stick right to it. Be super solid, and that's it. 1 inch for 1 day. It's an okay trade, I guess. I'm gonna cover it with plastic, clean up, and go home. I'm beat. That was a ton of work today, but you know what? It is what it is. And I didn't mind it. Thanks for watching. Well, it's Tuesday morning. I survived yesterday. That was a real hard day for me. Man, I vowed to myself to never have to tear out one of my shower pans again. I try to avoid doing demo anyway. We usually sub it out at this point. I just don't like doing it. It makes my body hurt. I don't like the dust. I've done too much of it in my life, and I'm kind of past that point, but especially not gonna demo one of my own shower pans again. That sucked. But I'm glad it's over. Anyway, I've shown this before, but I like to cover my mud with plastic. You can see all that moisture that builds up in there. It really just helps the moisture stay contained, and it's crazy the difference it is when you do this and when you don't. Just how much harder and firmer and smoother it feels when it hydrates overnight like that. And if you left it for like a week, it would be even crazier, you know, better. Anyway, that's something I like to do. That water dripping off there. So today we have a little deja vu. Put down some Dietrich heat membrane, set my drain, string these cables back in. I think I'm gonna look at my picture from how I did it before and just string them exactly the same pattern so I know that we have enough. And then I'm going to make a little Planetop 330 fast to extend this out to the middle here and just give us a really hard little step. Then we'll see where I'm at. Might have time to put down the membrane, might do that another day. Not too worried about it. I'm gonna move over and work on the big kitchen floor next so I can come back in here and do multiple coats over the next few weeks while I'm doing that. So anyway, yeah, that was a pain. I'm glad it's done. I hope that the clients are happy with that. It's gonna look a lot prettier when I get done. So I just had to cut my 2-inch ABS down a little lower. Luckily I've got like a 18-inch riser down there. Add a coupling, cut another piece just to get this drain just right. So this is kind of a cool tool. It's made by Ebby. They make drains also. You can stick it down in your 2-inch pipe and grab it to pull up, but my complaint with it is it's not quite big enough. So it gets a little bit of grab in there, but as soon as you pull too hard, it pops out. So sometimes I'll wrap a bunch of tape around it just to give it a little more grip. But that helps when you're setting your drain. If your pipe is wiggly like this one, there's a lot of play in it. You gotta put this through your drain, obviously. Go to the drain, then set it down, and then you pull that thing up into it. I'm not gonna film that because I don't have 3 arms, but you get the idea. Abby makes that, kind of cool. All right, I got that drain glued in. Always be sure to then set these things down just to make them nice and solid and not hollow. That leaves me about 3/16 of an inch reveal right there. And the Dietrich heat membrane will be that same thickness. So I can just cut it around that drain and install it. And then that will be nice and flush. And that's why Flow FX drains are so awesome. One of the many reasons. Got my Dietrich heat membrane all down with some rapid set. While that sets up, I'm chipping away this edge here. Just decided to chip clear back to where my permat starts. Get rid of this little slice of membrane and also chip that deck mud from last week down a little lower to give me a better mechanical bond with my 330 fast. So I'll clean that up, drop the cables in and string them. I'm gonna make a little form here and just screed myself a little 330 fast step. It's gonna be about an inch thick. And that's gonna be super strong. And waterproof over everything. And there's our cables coming out of the leveler and the permat right there. Still intact, still good. I just tested them. So far, so good. There we go. Great success. Got the wires put in exactly how they were before. No damage. Kind of a miracle, honestly, that I was able to tear all that out, put them all back in without messing up the wires. So I am super grateful that that worked out. Very grateful. Those are gonna get buried in some 330 fast, which I'm gonna do after I take a little break. Ta-da. I made myself a little form out of some hardwood, shimmed it up with some horseshoes to 1 inch. Fill that with 330 fast. That'll firm up quick, peel it off, embed my cables, and we'll have a nice hard little step. Alright, that 330 is nice and firm. I'll just fill up this form. There's our 1 inch step. Just doing some Flow FX membrane, so I'm sure a lot of you know this, but I like to clip the corners of my banding. Gives me one less overlap in the corners. I used the preform corners this time. Last time I built this pan, I did it all in one piece and cut it all and folded it up the sides and everything, and then I did liquid down over it, but that was a lot of stress, and I didn't feel like that kind of stress today. Working over this Dietrich heat is a little different because you put so much thin set in it. When you squish it in, more of it oozes out, and by trying to wrap the same floor piece up the walls, I ended up with some bulges that were hard to deal with, so I just did it this way this time. You know, you don't always have to do everything the same way. And I will go in and flash some of these other corners down on it with Aqua D tomorrow, but this is all I'm doing for today. I'll tell you what, I do like the coverage you get working over this stuff. That is just filling it as I go and then using the little, I don't know what that is, 8x8 now. Pretty wild coverage. I learned from last time that I was pressing too hard and creating little divots in all of these. So now I'm just going really lightly. You barely need to touch it in at all and it gets Mondo coverage. And then I'll just press it really tight at the seams, which I'm not worried about because I'm going to flash them with Aqua D anyway. So that's just how I like to do it. Not much pressure at all, just very lightly. That's all you need. go. There's your 1-inch step down. Used up almost every last bit of thin set. Must be living right. Pretty good day. It's about 2 o'clock and that's enough for me. I got some appointments and I just kind of want to relax. Glad this thing is over. Do a little bit of flashing with Aqua D tomorrow down on some of this stuff, and then move on into the slate kitchen floor for the next few weeks. So thanks for following along. Excuse me. Thanks for following along my heated shower floor rebuild. Have a good one.